I'll never forget the cold. I mean, you think you know what cold is until you've been to Antarctica. It's the kind of cold that sinks into your bones and doesn't let go, like it's claiming a part of you. I wasn't exactly in a great place when I agreed to lead the expedition. My divorce had just finalized, and to be honest, I was relieved to get away. I guess when you've got nothing left to lose, the ends of the earth seem like a decent option. Anyway, we were there for the usual, a geological survey, mapping new features, gathering ice cores, nothing out of the ordinary. At least that's what I thought. There were 4 of us. Me, Sarah Levinson, who's this sharp-as-a-knife historian, Marcus, who handled logistics, and Kat, our tech genius. We'd been out there for weeks, and I was starting to feel like I'd signed up to be a glacier myself. That was until Sarah found the documents. I remember the way her voice cracked through the quiet of the research tent. "Ethan, you need to see this." She had this look on her face, half excited, half freaked out. That wasn't normal for Sarah. I wandered over, expecting her to show me some obscure bit of history like she usually did. Instead, she handed me a folder. The papers were yellowed, brittle, and in German, which I don't speak, but the swastikas on the pages were hard to miss. "Where did you find this?" I asked, flipping through the documents. It wasn't the kind you'd expect to pop up in an Antarctic ice core, that's for sure. "In one of the older drill sites," she said. "It was buried deep. These are Nazi expedition records. They were here." I couldn't believe it. Antarctica? Sure, I'd heard the conspiracy theories, crazy stuff about secret bases and Hitler escaping here, but I'd always written it off as nonsense. Yet here it was, staring me in the face. "There's more," she added, leaning in closer. "Coordinates." Now part of me thought we should leave it alone. We were here to do a job, not chase Nazi ghosts. But the other part of me, the part that hadn't felt anything but numb for months, was curious. And it wasn't just me. Sarah was already making plans to check it out. The next day, we set out, following the coordinates listed in those ancient records. It was a few miles from our base camp, and honestly, if we hadn't known exactly where to look, we'd have missed it. But there it was, an unnatural formation, sticking out like a sore thumb in the endless expanse of white. The drill hit something solid a lot sooner than it should have, and when we finally broke through the ice, we found... Well, I'm not even sure what I expected to find, but it wasn't this. An underground facility, completely buried. The entrance was sealed with layers of ice, but after some work we got it open. And it was like stepping into a time capsule. Everything was perfectly preserved, frozen in place. The air inside felt heavy, stale. We were walking through history, a history nobody knew existed. The deeper we went, the weirder it got. Old surgical tools, documents, photos of experiments that shouldn't have existed outside of horror movies. I tried not to look too closely, but it was hard to shake the feeling that something wasn't right down there. The place didn't just feel abandoned, it felt forgotten, like it had been hidden away for a reason. "Do you feel that?" Sarah asked, her voice quieter than usual. I nodded, like the walls are watching. It was stupid, but that's exactly what it felt like. We kept going, though, deeper into the heart of the facility. That's when we found it. The machine. It was massive, filling the entire central chamber, covered in frost, humming faintly like it had been waiting for us. I don't know how to describe it other than wrong. It wasn't like any technology I'd ever seen, and I've worked in some cutting-edge labs. It had this weird, organic look to it, like it was part machine, part, I don't know, something else. Sarah was fascinated. "Look at this," she said, pointing to a plaque on the side of the machine. Her German was decent enough to translate. "Erinner dich, wer du bist." "Remember who you are," I repeated, trying to shake off the weird vibe. "What do you think it does?" Marcus asked, running his fingers along the side. "I don't know, but I think we're about to find out," Sarah said, her eyes gleaming with excitement. I wasn't so sure I wanted to know, but I couldn't stop myself from being drawn to it. Part of me knew we should have left the damn thing alone, but we didn't. We couldn't. Looking back, I should have just called it quits. We should have left that place, sealed it up, and gone home. but no, we were too curious, too caught up in the mystery. It didn't take long for us to decide we had to turn the thing on. Well, Sarah decided, and I wasn't about to argue with her when she had that look in her eye. You know the one that says she'll figure it out no matter what. So, there we were, standing around this massive hunk of metal and wires, trying to figure out how to get it running. Kat was in her element, poking at the old control panel like she was hacking some ancient code. Marcus stood back, arms crossed, skeptical as ever. "Are we seriously doing this?" he asked for the 100th time. "This thing's been buried for what, 70 years? We don't even know if it works." "It works," Kat said without looking up. "I can feel it." I didn't know what she meant by that, but I wasn't about to ask. The whole place had a pulse to it, like it had just been waiting for someone to wake it up. Finally, there was this low hum, and the lights flickered on. Not bright, just enough to make out the shape of the room and the machine itself. It started vibrating, slow at first, but then it picked up. That's when Sarah looked at me. "We need someone to sit in the chair," she said, like it was the most obvious thing in the world. And of course, I was the idiot who volunteered. I don't know what I was thinking. Maybe I wanted to prove something to myself, like I wasn't afraid of some dusty old relic. Or maybe, deep down, I thought this machine could do more than just power up. Maybe it could change something, fix something. I sat down in the cold, metallic chair, and the straps clicked into place around my arms and legs. It was unsettling, but I tried to act cool. Marcus and Kat were watching from the sidelines, but Sarah was right there with me, her hands hovering over the controls. "You ready?" she asked. "Not really," I half joked, but I gave her the nod. The machine whirred to life, and the hum got louder. It was a strange sound, almost hypnotic. I felt a low vibration running through the chair, through me. At first, it was just weird, like sitting too close to a subwoofer at a concert. Then everything went white. I don't mean I passed out or anything. I was fully aware, but my vision was just gone. Replaced by these flashes, like someone was cranking up an old film projector in my brain. The first things I saw were my own memories, nothing out of the ordinary. Childhood stuff. My parents taking me to the lake, my high school graduation. Then I saw Anna, my ex-wife. I wasn't expecting that, and it hit me harder than I'd like to admit. There she was, smiling at me, and I remembered every detail, every mistake that led to us falling apart. But it didn't stop there. It kept going. I saw memories I hadn't thought about in years, stuff I didn't even know I still had floating around in my head. And it was all so vivid, so real. I could practically smell the coffee on the kitchen table, hear the wind blowing through the trees outside our old house. It was like the machine was dragging out every moment of my life and throwing it in my face. Then, things got darker. The memories weren't mine anymore. I saw myself, or someone who looked like me, wearing a Nazi uniform, standing in a room full of surgical instruments. The air was thick with the smell of blood and antiseptic, and there were screams, horrible guttural screams. I was overseeing experiments, watching as people were strapped down to tables, begging for mercy. Their faces, I can't forget their faces. I don't know how long I sat there, trapped in those images. It felt like hours, but it could have been minutes. I wanted to scream, to get out of that chair, but I couldn't move. It was like the machine had latched onto me, feeding off my fear, my confusion. And the worst part, it all felt real. Like these were my memories, like I had lived that life, like I was that man. When it finally stopped, I was drenched in sweat, my heart pounding. Sarah was shaking me, her voice sounding far away. Ethan, are you okay?" I blinked, trying to focus. My hands were trembling as I unbuckled the straps and stood up, but everything felt wrong. I couldn't shake the feeling that I was someone else, that those memories, those nightmares, were part of me. "I don't know," I mumbled. "I saw things, horrible things." "What did you see?" Sarah pressed, clearly concerned. "Experiments, people, dying. I was there, Sarah. I was doing it." I could barely get the words out. I felt like I was on the verge of a breakdown. "That's not possible," Marcus chimed in. "You've never been here before. You've never—" "I know that," I snapped, cutting him off. But it felt real. It felt like I was a part of it. Kat was staring at the machine, her brow furrowed. "I don't like this," she said quietly. "We need to shut it down." But Sarah wasn't ready to give up. "It's memory manipulation. That's what this is. Maybe it's implanting false memories or pulling out repressed ones. We need to study it." "I don't care what it is," I muttered, my hands still shaking. "I'm done. Whatever that thing did to me, it's not right." I wanted to leave right then, to get as far away from that machine as possible. But something kept pulling me back. Maybe it was the memory of that plaque. Erinnere dich, wer du bist. Remember who you are. The problem was, I wasn't sure who that was anymore. We should have destroyed it then. I don't know why we didn't. It's easy to sit here and think of all the things I should have done, but in the moment, it's like I wasn't in control. None of us were. After that first time in the chair, I wasn't the same. I knew it. The team knew it. I was walking around like a ghost, trapped between the present and the nightmare the machine had burned into my brain. It didn't help that the others were starting to feel it too. A few days passed, and it wasn't just me anymore. Sarah was the first to crack after me. She came up to me in the middle of the night, her face pale, her eyes wide. She looked like she hadn't slept in days. "Ethan, it's happening to me," she whispered. "What's happening?" I asked, but I already knew. She had that same haunted look. "I can't stop seeing things," she said. "Things that aren't mine." I didn't have to ask what she meant. The machine, it had done something to us. I hadn't gone near it since my turn in the chair, but it didn't seem to matter. Whatever it had awakened wasn't going to leave us alone. Sarah started talking about a memory of her father, something that had happened when she was a kid. Except she said it didn't happen, that her dad had never been like that. And then there was Marcus. He was the logical one, always grounded in reality, always with his arms crossed, waiting for things to make sense. But even he wasn't immune. We were sitting around the heater one night, trying to warm up, when Marcus just starts talking in German, fluently. The rest of us stared at him like he'd grown a second head. "Marcus, what the hell?" I said, trying to sound casual, but my voice was shaky. I could tell the others were spooked too. He looked up at me, his face blank. "What? You're speaking German, man." He blinked, like he didn't even realize he was doing it. Then he frowned. "I don't speak German." "Well, you do now," Kat said, not even trying to hide the edge in her voice. That was when it hit me. The machine wasn't just messing with memories. It was changing us. Each of us. It was taking pieces from the past, people who had been here before, people who had suffered in that hellhole, and it was mixing them with us, like we were becoming them. Or maybe they were becoming us. The worst part, I started seeing them. The others hadn't, not yet, but I had. It started with shadows. I'd catch a glimpse out of the corner of my eye, someone standing there in a Nazi uniform, watching me. I'd turn to look, and they'd be gone. At first I thought I was losing it. Stress, lack of sleep, whatever. But then they got closer. One night, I woke up in a cold sweat, the sound of metal scraping against metal filling the room. I sat up, and there he was, a man in a blood-stained Nazi uniform, standing at the foot of my bed. His eyes were hollow, his face twisted in agony. He didn't say anything, just stared at me, his hands shaking like he wanted to reach out and grab me. I screamed like a damn child, and when the others ran in, he was gone. "I saw him," I told them, my voice shaky. "He was right here." "Who?" Kat asked, clearly not believing me. "One of them," I said. "One of the victims." Sarah and Marcus exchanged a look, but they didn't say anything. I could tell they were thinking the same thing. I wasn't seeing ghosts. I was seeing the people we had brought back with us. And it wasn't just me anymore. We all felt it. It didn't take long for the facility to start feeling like a tomb. The air was thick with, I don't know, something I couldn't quite explain. It was like the place was alive, pulsing with memories that weren't ours. Every time I walked down one of those long, cold corridors, I could hear voices, whispers in German, screams that echoed through the walls. The others heard them too. I could see it in their faces. We were all losing it, slowly but surely. Then Sarah snapped. She came running into the central chamber where we'd been working, her eyes wild. "We have to stop it," she shouted, pointing at the machine. "It's bringing them back. Don't you see? It's them, Ethan. It's their memories, their lives. They're taking over." "What are you talking about?" I asked, trying to calm her down, but part of me already knew. I'd been thinking the same thing. "The machine," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. "It wasn't just for memory manipulation. It's a portal. It's bringing them back. The ones who died here, the ones who were tortured. They're not gone. They're here, in us." That's when everything clicked. The machine wasn't just implanting memories. It was recreating people, those trapped souls, the victims of those horrible experiments. They weren't just haunting us. They were becoming us. I could see it in the others. Marcus, who used to be the most level-headed guy I knew, was pacing back and forth, muttering to himself in German. Kat had shut down completely, staring at the machine like she was in a trance. And me? I couldn't shake the feeling that I wasn't Ethan anymore. I was someone else, someone worse. I kept seeing flashes of that Nazi doctor, Dr. Hans Voller. Every time I closed my eyes, I was back in that lab, performing those sick experiments. And the worst part? I couldn't tell if it was a memory or if I was living it right now. We had to destroy it. I knew that. I think Sarah knew it too. But when I got close to the machine, something stopped me. I saw my reflection in the glass, and for a split second I didn't see me. I saw him, Dr. Voller. I was wearing his uniform, his expression, his life, and that's when I knew the truth. I wasn't just remembering him. I was him. The others, they were too far gone. I could see it in their eyes, those hollow, haunted eyes. They weren't Sarah or Marcus or Kat anymore. They were the ghosts of that place, living through us. The machine had done its job. It had brought them back. I didn't have a choice. I had to destroy it, and I knew I wouldn't survive. I could feel it in my bones. This was the end of the line. But if I didn't stop it, it would keep going, keep bringing more of them back. So I did it. I blew the whole place sky high. As the walls came down, I heard one last whisper from the machine. "Are you sure this was never your life?" And honestly, I'm not sure anymore.